So guys, unbelievable. You can imagine a northerner now is speaking for the Igbos, talking about how Igbos are being marginalized. He is even referring to the position of the southeast on the map of Nigeria. That when you look at it critically, it was intentionally mapped that way just to ensure the Igbos are held down. Take your time, watch this video for yourself to hear what this guy has got to say. Moreover, he has equally profiled some suggestions for the Igbo. Take your time and watch this video and let me know your honest reaction in the comment section below. Now take a look.
It was one of the most brutal and vicious civil wars that much of the world has never heard of. Anyone who lived through Nigeria's Biafran War in the 1960s will forever be haunted by the atrocities, the memories of bodies in the streets, and the fear of not being able to survive another day. After the eastern part of Nigeria declared independence in 1967, the bloody battle that ensued left more than 1 million people dead from starvation, disease, or the endless explosions. The 2.5-year war was literally hell on earth. As many of you who watch the show regularly know, I am Nigerian and I am from the part of the country where this war took place. Family members who lived through it tell me they never knew if they were going to eat, let alone what. It was common for people to feed off of grasshoppers, snakes and termites. My mother's younger brother died during the Biafra War, and that was considered a very, very lucky outcome. If you only lost one family member, you thanked your lucky stars. So given all of that history and all of that pain, why are there now growing calls for a new secessionist movement in the exact same part of the country? We are joined live now by Amaka Uncle, an expert on Nigeria and Sub-Saharan Africa. She's also the head of Eurasia's Group's Africa practice. Amaka, thank you so much for being with us. So you and I are both Nigerian. It's been over 50 years since this brutal civil war. Why is there this additional secessionist movement in the same part of this country bubbling up?
Look, Zain, the fundamental problem here is that Nigerians don't trust Nigeria, right? Like you said, and there are many reasons for that, right? All the years of military rule, Nigeria has underinvested in Nigerians in basic services like healthcare, education, infrastructure, and there is then the broader issue of justice, right? We saw the protests last year. Police officers kill people and nothing ever happens to them. So, all of this is taking place against this history of the civil war that you just explained, where a lot of people in the Southeast in particular feel like there's never been an official recognition of the suffering of the region, right? We don't have a day every year where the country remembers what happened and these lives that were lost. That was disproportionately in the region, right? We don't even teach the history in the schools.
So let me ask you this, because I think it's important for our audience to note that it's not just the eastern part of Nigeria that wants to break away and have its own country. You have the western part of the country, the Yoruba people that also want to have their own country. Obviously, Boko Haram in the northeastern part of the country, they want to create an Islamic state. It sort of feels as though there are so many different groups in this great nation who have lost faith in this country. So just in terms of the president's strategy here, if there are people who feel marginalized, has the president made any effort to really show these various parts of Nigeria that he understands their concerns and that their voices are being heard?
I would say the government is not doing enough. And look, people have lost faith in Nigeria in part because there's nobody in Nigeria articulating a positive vision for Nigeria's future, right? Nigeria has a crisis of ideas. Nigeria appears not to have any ambition. And look, that is often, in most countries, that's often a role that is played by government. A role that, that to provide a holistic idea about what the country is about and where it's going, to bring people together and drive buy-in. The government is not doing that. But I have to say, Zain, that that's also a role in most parts of the country that is also played by people outside the government. There's a role as well for thought leaders in the country, for private sector participants, to have a constructive vision of where Nigeria should be going, right, and push the government. And that's, there's a symbiotic relationship that can happen here between people inside government and outside government in articulating a positive vision for Nigeria.
I just want to sort of get at how all of this ends, because obviously President Buhari is not going to wake up and say, okay, you get your own country, or you can have autonomy and you can't. He's not going to do that. So how does all of this end?
I don't think it ends until Nigeria starts to really and truly invest in Nigerians. until Nigeria, the Nigerian government, and it's, whether it's Buhari or the person who comes after him, respects Nigerians enough to communicate consistently and clearly where the country is going, what their vision is, right? And then to start to invest in education, in healthcare, in infrastructure, and all of the things that make a society function and make an economy competitive, right? Until that happens, you will continue to see these kinds of calls for secession.
And so, just in terms of what the secessionists want themselves, and obviously, yes, we know they want to break apart and form their own country, but is there anything else that they're willing to accept in the medium term, or is it for IBOP and these other groups, is it really secessionist or nothing?
I do think that for the leaders of some of these secessionist movements, like Nnamdi Kanu, I do think it's secession or nothing. Maybe the leaders of ODC in the Southwest. I think that what their views are probably less relevant than the views of the minority, the populations that are sympathetic to those views. I think for most of those people, most of the people in the Southeast, some of whom are sympathetic to those views, I don't think it's secession or nothing. I do think that a clear and consistent outreach, communication, and investment can help to change some of those views.
I mean, it's such a shame because Nigeria is such a beautiful country. It has so much potential, and just seeing all of these different areas wanting to separate, saying they've had enough of being part of this great nation, is very, very sad indeed. Amaka Anko, thank you so much for being with us.
When you look at the facts, that something around 1 million people perished as a result of the actions of the British and Russian and Nigerian federal governments. I don't know what one does call it, but it was pretty close to genocide.
It was the first of the genocidal wars that a great power got as close to as Britain got to the war in Biafra.
And that was totally wrong.
And that was wrong.
Over 1 million Igbos, Biafrans, all British Commonwealth citizens, died in the Nigeria-Biafra civil war. Today, more than 30 years later, questions remain. Was it genocide? Was it backed by the British government, willingly or unwillingly?
In my own opinion, I think that the 6 geopolitical zones that were created, I think by Abacha or who was it, I think it was a deliberate and calculated attempt aimed at containing the Igbos. That is my opinion, and I'm entitled to it. And let me explain further. You see, part of the basis, part of the reasons why the government gave at that point in time for the creation of these 6 geopolitical zones was the fact that it was not just created out of geographical locations, but based on the fact that people that were similar in culture and other things were brought together. So the question I begin to ask myself is, how is it that there's no similarity between an Igbo man and the Niger Deltans? You quite agree with me that there's similarity, right? And secondly, let's look at the creation. Why I say it's a deliberate move to contain them in one place is the fact that, look at the way they would have been privileged to the water if not for the fact that they were carved in the middle. If you look at it, you see they were carved in the middle, which deprived them of having a seaport. But when you look at places like Lagos now, Lagos is privileged to have that by virtue of the fact that it's close to the water. And funny enough now, you get to look at it that the seaports that are supposed to be viable in the Niger Delta are not viable. Why are they not viable? You should answer that question to yourself. So if you look at it generally, there's a problem there. And funny enough, the Niger Delta seems not to be agitating for having these seaports. Why? Possibly because they are already rich in terms of the revenue allocation they get because they have oil. But another thing again is the fact that one of the main reasons why the Igbo man have to live to places like Lagos is the fact that the Igbo man is a businessman. And there's ease of doing business since they are more into importing or whatever to come and reside in Lagos. But funny enough, this would have been made much easier had it been, there's a kind of, if the seaports in the Niger Deltas is viable, right? So, but you get to see that By the time the Igbo man complain of we need seaport now, they will say, no, you don't have anywhere to have a seaport, right? And let's go to this other aspect. What are the major reasons for the agitation of an Igbo man in the country at the moment? We just need to do justice to that. One is the fact that the Igbo man feels threatened anywhere he goes. In most of the places he goes, most especially in the north. Anything that happens, he feels threatened. We're going to burn down your business. This is not your place. We'll send you away. With evidence, right? It has happened so many times. In short, even recently in Lagos, they seems to be having that as well, right? That is point agitation number one. Number two agitation is the fact that they feel that they don't need to go to Lagos to actually access seaports and have ease of doing business, and a lot of it would have been much more easier had it been them and the Niger Deltans are together and there's a seaport created there, right? Which is a fact, and of which I feel it would have been the best. But in so doing now, I think it's going to make Lagos less effective, and at the same time, in short, it's going to make Lagos less effective. And I think that's why politically, consciously or unconsciously, that has remained for a very long time. But looking at it now, having said this, what is the way out? The way out still remains the fact that I think the Igbos need to work better with the Niger Deltans, because I see a lot of similarity, if not for political differences and a lot of other things born out of selfishness and born out of a creation that was actually designed to contain them. I think they will strive more better, and they will agitate for all these things that can make their regions more viable. And second, another thing is we need to look at the landmass. One of the reasons why the Igbo man have to move to other places, a lot of places to do business as well, is the fact that he's deprived of the landmass. Generally speaking, if you look at the creation of the 6 geopolitical regions, you will get to see that it was just a calculated attempt born out of selfishness and born out of trying to contain a particular group of people, not to be viable. So, but just like I said, I feel there is need for the Igbos to either work out their differences with the Niger Deltans, because while the fact is some of their differences seems to be stemming from the past history in regards to the civil war that happened, but I feel everybody have made mistakes at any point in time, and there needs to put aside differences and come together and fight for that. And I equally want to talk about the quality of the legislators, the lawmakers that are being pushed from these regions. I feel competent legislators should be pushed that can lobby and work with other people at the same time. So this is just my opinion generally, and I feel, well, there's more to this, but let me just stop here.
Nobody is asking how Nnamdi Kanu was brought into Nigeria from Kenya. In fact, everybody has stopped asking. But that's a question that we should ask. Nnamdi Kanu is a British citizen. The British were also part of this whole thing, it will never have succeeded without British support. The DSS has come out to say that they are not the ones that did it. The witness during Nnamdi Kanu's court case said that he was from airport. He received Nnamdi Kanu and took him straight to the DSS dungeon. Then you ask, who exactly carried out that mission? The British agency and Nigerian agency collaborated to pin Nnamdi Kanu down. That goes on to show you the reasons why there has been no effort by the British to support Nnamdi Kanu and make sure that his stay in DSS comes to an end and in fact get his freedom. I'm saying this because the British have a mandate to protect their citizens who are facing trials in foreign countries. Yes. Fact check me. In fact, I'm going to read you something now to show you the rights of British citizens, to protection against unfair trials in foreign countries. And in fact, they have a mandate. The British consuls have a mandate, to stand by a British citizen who is undergoing trial in foreign countries. And since Nnamdi Kanu has been going in this trial, have you seen the British recently come to his aid effectively? In fact, let me tell you, to add to you, the British fights against illegal detention against its citizens in foreign countries. Yes. They fight against it. They lobby against it until that person receives fair trial and fair sentencing. That is the extent the British can go in ensuring that anybody carrying their passport will never be left behind. I will read you briefly on the role of the British, of the UK, in defense of the citizens around the world. Listen very carefully. Number one, the British provides consular support. Yes, from the embassy of the country that the person is being held, the British ensure that the person is tried in line with local and international, international standards. And also, it will raise concern if the trial process appears not to be fair or the rights of the person are being violated. This is one point of what the British does to ensure that their citizen is not being, witch hunted or so. And so far, Kanu has spent 4 years in the DSS dungeon. Have the British ever released any statements to say the trial was unjust? Because 4 years in DSS dungeon is not a trial. It is just even now recently that a trial has decided to begin officially. So why haven't the British come out to condemn or pressure the Nigerian government in trying this man rightly and making sure that Nnamdi Kanu doesn't languish in solitary confinement? That is food for thought. That is a food for thought. Number two, monitoring of the case. British consular officials may attend trials as observers. They can advocate for fair treatment but cannot get somebody actually out of jail or demand that the case to be dropped. Just like you said, they are supposed to be there during his trial in consular services. British embassies in Abuja just close by. How many white men did you see in the court for the past few days? How many Oyibo did you see in court? So supporting Nnamdi Kanu all this while, standing by their citizen. How many white men do you see? Nobody. They've abandoned this man because they are the ones that put him there. They are the ones that went to Kenya. They are the ones that played the major role in making sure that they assist in catching this man for the government. See, let me tell you something like that. Clear conscience fears no accusation.
So guys, you can see that some of the things the Igbos are going through today in Nigeria is is man-made, as in it was intentionally carved out just to checkmate the Igbos. They believe that the Igbos are hardworking, and if given, that free hand, they want to override every other part of the country in terms of success. They will outblow every other part of this country, and that is what they don't want. Now, still, despite all that is being done to make sure that the Igbos are stopped, the Igbos have refused to be stopped. You can see the sufferings of Igbos in Nigeria. Like we have it today in Nigeria that, if you're an Igbo man and you're in the southeast doing business, your cargo that you imported from outside the country must come through Lagos. And when it gets to Lagos, you now start going the hustle or the trouble of bringing that container from Lagos to the southeast. It has to do with bad roads. It has to do with you meeting kidnappers and thieves and robbers on the road. It has to do with the extortions from the police, extortions from the military, extortions from all kinds of people on the road. It has to do with a whole lot of risk. What if the trailer carrying your goods falls because of bad road? What if the trailer, breaks down? A whole lot of challenges, and guess what? Directly, indirectly, this is affecting people's businesses. Because sometimes people keep saying, why would somebody leave Nigeria and travel out when you have a successful business? Do you know how good is the ease of doing business in Nigeria? This is why everybody is running out. Just this Ghana here, if you know the population of Nigerians being housed by Ghana, you will be shocked. Not to talk of other smaller African countries. Nigerians just want to live any other place that is not Nigeria, because this is a country that will not give you light, will not give you employment, will not give you, they will not equip you in any form, any way, directly or indirectly. Nobody is going to equip you, and that's why people prefer to leave the country, because they know that staying back is not going to help them in any form. Anyway, guys, let me know what you think about this in the comment section below. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell. Please give this video a like so that YouTube can recommend it to others, and drop your thoughts in the comment section below. Thank you.